Hello and welcome to the Giddy Carousel of Pop, the podcast that takes an old issue of the swingerilliant pop mag smash hits, usually from the 80s, although we may slide a year or two either side of that, and has a good nose to its pages with a guest who could be a pop kid, someone who worked on the mag, or maybe someone who appeared in its pages. I'm Simon Galloway, and he'd like to get to know you well. It's Gavin Hogg.
Sorry, Si, I was on mute there.
Sorry.
How you doing, Si? All right.
I'm all right, yes.
It's like we should explain to our lovely readers that we're actually here in the flesh.
Readers?
Readers.
That's a Smash Hits thing.
That's
what they say, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, they say listeners on Smash Hits. So.
Or viewers.
Or viewers, yeah.
Or whichever you prefer.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
We're actually here together in the flesh, back together again.
Wow.
For the first time in, well, it's been a long time. So, before we set the carousel in motion, we have a few hellos and thank yous to those people who've supported the podcast by buying us a coffee.
Indeed we do, Si. Rachel Gallatley, previous guest on the podcast, says, keep up the excellent work, Pop Kids. Thank you very much, Rachel. Vivian Webster says, as I'm later in life to be introduced to the Giddy Carousel, can I just say what a delightful treat. I'm loving it. Such fantastic memories and recollections around all the best tunes and fantastic guests. Thank you, Hoggy and Simon. Wow, that's our new name. When we put our first album out, not Simon Garfunkel, Hoggy and Simon.
Hoggy and Simon.
Hoggy and Simon. And Alex Simpson, thank you very much, says the last episode was Fallerilliant. That, of course, was our episode with Paul Hanley. He said, could your guest be on every week? There was one brilliant thing he said, but I'll have to listen again to remember what it was. Sounds like a good plan, Alex. Thank you very much. Also, thank you very much to Rob Freeman and Pete Prosted for their coffees.
Indeed. And if you want to support us, you too can do the same. It's very simple. And it can be just a one-off thing, or you can buy us as many coffees as you like, as often as you like. It's up to you. Just go to coffee.com/giddypoppod. That's ko-fi.com/giddypoppod and chuck us a few quid to help keep the carousel spinning. And now I think the time has come to welcome our guest onto the carousel, Gavin, who's joining for the pop-tastic ride of a lifetime.
Well, Si, as our last guest departs the carousel, it's time to scan the sea of eager, expectant faces once more at the fairground to see who'll be mounting a wooden horse today. Just looking around, and I can spy someone with a poetry book in one hand, a carousel token in the other, and she's wearing a Howard Jones T-shirt. Strange enough, she looks remarkably like my wife. Blimey, Charlie, it is! How does she even know my work is? Must have followed me down. Fresh from a Philip Larkin Society meeting, it's Lyn Lockwood, the deputy chair of said august body. Welcome aboard, Lyn. Which horse would you like to sit on?
I'll have the brown one with the white spots and the pink bow in its hair.
It's all yours.
Thank you very much.
Right, it's got a comfy saddle.
Oh, yeah, so like that one.
Get yourself on. And yeah, let's
Might
ride.
need a cushion, I'm quite short.
Okay. We supply cushions, don't we?
Yeah, we can do cushions.
That's great.
That's fine.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
We cater for all sizes. So the carousel has spun us back to the smash hits of the 3rd to the 16th of July 1985, which Lyn has singled out for special attention. As ever, if you want to read along with us, you can do just that. Thanks to the Like Punk Never Happened and Smash Hits Remembered websites, you'll find the links to the scans of this issue in the show notes for this episode, along with those Spotify and YouTube playlists that include pretty much all the songs and artists featured in this issue of The Hits. You'll also find these links on our website, giddypoppod.home.blog, and we'll post them on our Twitter and Facebook feeds as well. Just search for the Giddy Carousel of Pop or at GiddyPopPod.
So, before we clamber aboard the carousel, let's set the scene. Lyn, what were you up to in July 1985?
I was 14 and I was a schoolgirl at an all-girls school in Hertfordshire.
Mm-hmm.
And I was choosing my options, I think, at that point, and finding out that I was going to have to do physics for O-level, so I wasn't too happy about that.
Why did you have to do physics?
Because I only had to do one science, and that was the only one that fitted in on my options block, and it's burned into my memory.
Clearly.
As you can tell.
35 years later, still
yeah,
rank.
Still complaining about being forced to pick physics. Yeah, so I was at the end of what they call now year 9, but I think we called it the 3rd year then. I was very, very on call. I had a mullet and braces, and all that kind of stuff. It's very geeky. I think when I got my end of year photograph from school, I hid it from my mum. I refused. I lost it on the way home.
Threw it in a bush.
Yeah, threw it in a bush. I was aware of how geeky I was, I think, at that point. So that's where I was. And 1985 was a good year for me. I picked this because this Smash Hits is me at the crossroads, where I was getting really tired of my geeky image, and I was
time for a makeover, girlfriend.
Yeah, new image on the horizon for me.
So tell us about the music you were listening to around this time.
I was listening to kind of a lot of different music. I was a big fan of Howard Jones at that point. I was actually in the Howard Jones fan club. And I literally had the badge and the little card and it was like a little black and silver passport book, because Howard's very formal, So he'd send you a little book to welcome you into his
and you could then travel to the land of Howard Jonesville.
And get it stamped.
Yeah.
Anything to declare.
That was nice. But I think I'd sort of been looking at stuff that I'd been buying around that time. So, like I say, it was a bit of a kind of pivotal year. So I was getting into things. I'd been listening to The Cure and The Damned and Simple Minds, but I was still listening to, Culture Club and Howard Jones and Nick Kershaw. But I think just slightly aware that there was more to life than just kind of pop music.
So you had a bit of a toe in both camps, as it were.
Yeah.
Both camps, yeah.
And I know when we look back on it and we think Howard Jones is really bland, and I don't have like a massive soft spot for Howard Jones, even now. I threw away all my scrapbooks, didn't I, a couple of years ago?
It was Night of the Long Knives for Howard Jones, wasn't it?
It's like, these mean nothing to me. And I threw them in the bin. And I went to see Howard Jones live a few years ago on my own, because nobody would go with me. And I was like, this would be brilliant. I'll just, relive all my memories. And it wasn't that great, to be honest. And about half an hour into the show, everyone was shouting, "What is love? What is love?" And Howard had to stop the proceedings and say, "If I play What Is Love now, you'll all go home. So I'm not playing it till the end." So we all had to sit and listen and politely applause to everything that he played, and waited till the end till he played What Is Love. And then he played it about 48 times. So it's a bit like when you go and see Joseph in a Technicolor Dreamcoat, because they actually haven't got a lot of very good songs. So you sit through the whole musical and then they just play the songs all over again about 20 times at the end. But yeah, I actually really liked Howard Jones at the time. And I think I liked him because I bought the first single. I bought New Song when it came out. And I think it was the first time in my life, I think, I bought the first single by an artist and was kind of there at the beginning. And then I bought, What Is Love, and just kind of buying the singles in the first album and the second album and joining the fan club fairly early on just gave me a bit of a sense of what it's like to be in at the start of something.
You were invested.
I was invested at that point, yeah. It was very important to me. And I used to buy the singles and the 12 inches. And they had a really good little fan club, actually. It was very, very personal. His wife, I think, and his mum ran it. And you could write them all sorts of silly things. And they'd always send you a little postcard back. And I think they sent me a postcard once. And it was like a black and white postcard of Howard. And it had Howard signed on it in like silver marker pen. Like everything in the 80s was signed with silver marker pen. And I remember writing back to them saying, "Thank you for this. Did Howard really sign it?" And they wrote back to me and "Yes, Howard did really sign it." I fancy going through all that trouble. But they're like, no, yes, Howard did really sign it.
That's nice.
And I went saw him in some concerts, saw him in Wembley Arena. So they were the first sort of big live shows I went to. And I know people kind of laughed at him and laughed at Jed. And I know there was all sorts of, I'm sure, Little and Large or whatever, probably took the mickey out of him. But I had a soft spot for him. And even now, looking back on him, I think the lyrics are different. They are different from Duran Duran, whatever, they weren't about the 80s stuff of being glamorous, because Howard Jones was never going to be glamorous. It was more about eating vegetarian food and being nice to each other.
Yeah, it's a bit of kind of consciousness in there.
There was a
isn't
lot,
it?
actually. Yeah, and that Humans Live album, had some kind of philosophy in it, which was quite nice, I thought.
And what about Smash Hits? When did Smash Hits first cross your path?
I don't really remember the first time I bought it, but I know by this point I was buying it every fortnight and really enjoying it and reading it from cover to cover. I dabbled with a few things like Just 17. I think, was that David Hepworth as well, wasn't it?
It was,
Just 17?
yeah.
Yeah, I dabbled with a few of those things and then eventually got into, Enemy and stuff. But Smash Hits was just a sense of humour. It was our sense of humour at school, like alongside French and Saunders and Young Ones and that kind of all the Tom Hibbert stuff, Sir Clifford of Richard and all that kind of stuff. So I've still got one or two friends that, I'm still a little bit in touch with from secondary school, and we very quickly lapse into the Young Ones and the Smash Hits lingo.
Yeah.
It's just the lingo of a generation. I mean, when David Hepworth came up to Glossop, when was that, 2 or 3 years ago, and he did
3 or 4 years ago, I think.
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
Was it? And we were sitting in the restaurant, and I just remember saying to him, he wasn't really listening to me, but I was saying, the language of Smash Hits, it just completely changed my life and the way that I communicated with my friends. But I think he's heard that so many times.
Possibly,
I think he was like, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have another glass of red wine, please. He's very lovely, David Hepworth. And Mark Ellen as well. I've got a real memory from around about this time of watching Mark Ellen on Whistle Test when they were on the Orient Express with The Cure. It was probably round about this time when The Cure were doing, Close to Me and stuff like that. And he got on the little dining car. And I just thought that was the most exotic thing I'd ever seen in my life. Sitting with The Cure on an old, railway carriage going to Vienna, drinking champagne with Robert Smith. I mean, how brilliant would that be?
Yeah.
How brilliant. But that was the sort of thing Smash Hits... I know that wasn't for Smash Hits, but that was Mark Ellen Sing, wasn't it? Just... That's what Smash Hits did. They sat with the pop stars and ordered some ketchup to go with the haddock and chips or whatever on the Orient Express, and just kind of did really mundane things and just brought them to life, brought them to reality. And seeing Robert Smith and Simon Gallup all kind of with their black spiky hair, all hunched up in their little Edwardian train carriage, knowing they're meant to be quite well behaved but probably not managing it. It's just brilliant, just brilliant.
So, what about you? What were you up to around this time? I know we've covered the next episode, the next issue of Smash Hits before.
So the next issue of Smash Hits is the Live Aid issue. So, listeners, if you want to go back and find the episode that we did last year for the 35th anniversary of Live Aid, you can find out all about what we were up to and what other people were up to around about that time. But yeah, I mean, summer 85, 1985, but particularly the summer of 85 is like my peak pop period. It's my absolute favourite year for pop music. It's not necessarily the best year for pop music, but it's my favourite year. And if you want to hear more about that, listen to the Live Aid episode, but also the Back to Now podcast with Pop Rambler. I guested on that last year, talking about Now That's What I Call Music 5, which is from the summer of 85. But also, and this is something I haven't mentioned on any of the other podcasts.
It's an exclusive.
Exclusive. You heard it here first, Pop Kids. I've been going through a load of stuff in the loft and clearing it out and stuff like that. And I found a folder full of clippings and stuff from a rival pop magazine.
Oh.
I was flirting with Number One.
I was going to say
Number One.
Yeah.
Number One in the summer of 85.
Yeah. Is that the one that had the lyrics, mainly lyrics?
They had lyrics and posters, but the colour was never quite as good as Smash Hits, and the features were never quite as good as Smash Hits, but they kept having in artists that I liked. So, I, as well as getting my Smash Hits every fortnight in between times, because my school was just across the road from the newsagent, I'd go in, buy an ex-jukebox single and a copy of Number One.
Oh.
Don't tell anyone.
I hope Dave Hepworth and Mike Ellen aren't listening.
So, yeah, that was me in summer of 85. What about you, Gav?
Well, again, we've kind of covered this period on the Live Aid edition, but from my teenage diary. I've got a few highlights.
This is the first time I've seen it in the flesh.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. This is actually it. So July the 5th, this is just a little window into my world at this time. I would have been, I was 15 at the end of March, so coming up to, 15 and a bit. I was towards the end of what's now year 10 or year 4 back in the day in old money. So going into the last year of school before too long. This tells you a little bit about the kind of music that I liked. So July the 5th, saw Adamant on Wogan, had a short interview and played Viva La Rock. Preston gave me an ant badge. Auntie Junie's coming on Sunday. So there you go. July the 6th, the Saturday. I must have gone into Birmingham Town Centre. I lived in Solihull. But This Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, 7-inch by the Smiths. Also Tomb of Memories, I think it was a Paul Young single.
Paul Young, yeah.
Let's Dance by the Dame, obviously. And You're the Best Thing. They would have been old ex-jukebox singles, I think. And got a U2 T-shirt. So obviously very excited about that. July the 7th. Auntie June came over for tea from 3:15, very precise there. Boris Becker won Wimbledon, so I won a 50p bet with me mum. That was a lot of money back in the day, you know.
That's another single.
Yeah, exactly. And then July the 11th, this is I must have been in a bad mood this day. Got crick in neck and feel bloody awful. Went to golf range and played bloody crap. A horrible day. Live Aid on Saturday.
It's so Adrian Mole.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it?
Right, well, shall we get stuck into this this edition then, shall we?
Oh, well, talk about the front cover.
So the front cover, I mean, it's in terms of design, it's very minimal, uncluttered. It's dominated by a photo of a smiling Howard Jones underneath a bright yellow umbrella. I'm guessing it's a golfing umbrella, that. It's a very big umbrella.
Yeah. Well, he was quite a small man, though.
Might just be normal size.
Yeah, just a normal umbrella over the minuscule Howard Jones against it's probably an evening sky. There's what looks like a big building or something like that in the background, and that kind of blue that you get as the sunset of an evening. The only other photo on the front cover is Max Headroom, the private life of Max Headroom, and on the front there's nothing mentioned about any of the lyrics that are in there, anything like that. It's just Duran Duran, Simply Red, Green, Pete Burns, Live Aid, Jim Kerr. So do you want to, Lynn, tell us about this photo a little bit?
Well, I thought it was very, very typical of Howard Jones and how Howard Jones is portrayed, because he's holding a very big umbrella in what looks some very light rain, because he's not taking any chances.
Mr. Cautious.
Mr. Cautious.
But with that mullet, you've got to be careful, haven't you?
Yeah. The mullet is a bit unfortunate. I think it shows his kind of hairline in a bit of an unflattering light, really. But I thought, no, this is Howard. He's steady, you know. It could have been Howard opening a tin of baked beans, you know, Howard cleaning the grouting in the bathroom, Howard emptying the washing machine. But no, it's Howard holding an umbrella. That's about as fun and exciting as you get. It's very clean living and sensible, our Howard.
Yeah, and he's got a nice white scarf on.
Yeah, a nice white scarf. And it's that kind of, what do they call it? The golden hour, isn't it? Where it's that evening light, gives it a bit of a golden glow on his cheeky chops.
Yeah, and he's wearing a coat which the insides, the lining of the coat is yellow to match the umbrella.
Yeah, lots of yellow and blue. Yeah, so it's quite a nice sort of eye-catching cover. I quite liked it.
It's nice and clean, isn't it?
It's nice and clean, and he's looking off camera. And, you know, he's not sort of gurning like some of the other Smash Hits covers where they're all kind of a bit, you know, like the Wham covers where they're all really like in your face and really posed. It's a little bit more natural, isn't it?
Very natural, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to get to the contents page to find out more about what's going on. I mean, you do anyway with Smash Hits, but to just find out what lyrics are in there. But in terms of features and colour, as it says here, that's posters to me and you. So Howard Jones, Duran Duran, a little bit about Live Aid, Vince Clarke and Paul Quinn, Pete Burns, a nice centre spread of Pete, Max Headroom, as previously mentioned. There's a Nights Out special. Let's see what they're doing there. Music, Mud and Mayhem from Glastonbury, Nebworth and Milton Keynes, Jim Kerr from Simple Minds, and then what I'm guessing is probably the first appearance of Simply Red in Smash Hits. And then the songs that are featured in this issue are The Smiths, That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, Elton John and Millie Jackson, Act of War, The Style Council, Come to Milton Keynes, The Damned, The Shadow of Love, Hip Sway, The Broken Years, Dead or Alive, In Too Deep, The Redskins, Bring It Down, open brackets, This Insane Thing, close brackets, The Commentators, None 19 Not Out, sorry, you got to get a novelty record in there, Eurythmics, There Must Be an Angel, Playing With My Heart, and the Books Fizz, no, just Books Fizz. Books Fizz, You and Your Heart So Blue.
The Fizz.
The Fizz. Alongside all the usual bits and reviews and whatnot, which we shall get to in due course. So then we turn the page and we are into bits.
We are indeed. So the usual potpourri of things in bits. We've got stuff about the Cocteau Twins and Colourbox, and there's a great little thing about John Foxx saying, could you live with the thought that you inspired Gary Newman to start making music? John Foxx, who was in Ultravox before they were famous, has to. Things like that.
Lots of mention of Rock's Lost Highway as well.
I'd forgotten about that. And reading this issue again, I was like, oh yeah, Rock's Lost Highway was a thing. It was like a running theme, wasn't it, for a while? And it's in several of the articles in bits. A couple of things that really caught my eye, and we'll come on to you two soon. But I really loved the headline for one of the articles. So there was a band called Humpe Humpe. They were two German, as they're called here, two German chiclets, and they call them a very Daffy Duck European group. Two sisters called Annette and Inge Humpe, and they've just released their first single called The Three of Us, and Martin Gore from Depeche Mode helps out on their up-and-coming LP thingy. It wasn't really the story or the photo in which they looked like very kind of new romantic youngsters, but the headline was Humpe Humpe, Stick It Up Your Jumper, which really just made me laugh for about 5 minutes. I thought it was great. I loved that.
I've become slightly obsessed with that song now. I don't know if you've listened to it or watched the video.
I watched the video. It was quite a good 80s video, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't quite work out what's going on in the video. So the song is called Three of Us, but there's two sisters. But is it, so there's three of them in the video. Is it one sister who's playing two parts, or are there three? Is it the two sisters and someone else? I mean, it kind of looks like it's like it's made up of snippets of Neighbours, and obviously, you know, we hadn't got Neighbours yet. It started in Australia, but they do look like they've just kind of strolled in off Ramsay Street. But intercut with clips like from a 1920s silent horror film. You know, you expect Bela Lugosi to appear or something like that. It's just very, very strange, and it's the verses are quite dark in a way, and then it goes into this kind of proper Europop chorus, which doesn't fit with the song at all. But I've listened to it several times in the last few days, and there's one bit where one of the sisters, I think it's not Inga, I think it's the Annette, yeah. She's playing I guess the priest or the vicar or whatever who's marrying the couple, and she kind of throws her head back and goes, yeah, like that, and it's these kind of like Lena Lovitch, Kate Bush kind of stylings, but it's just the way she rolls her eyes with it as well. I had to keep rewinding that bit. I've just got a little bit obsessed with Humpe Humpe.
Humpe Humpe.
Yeah.
I've got to thank actually DJ Space Terrapin, a mutual friend of myself and Si, our German correspondent, because I thought, I don't know if it's Humpy Humper, so he kind of gave me a phonetical breakdown of how it should be. So Humpe Humpe, I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, yeah.
I did have a quick look on Wikipedia, and it says that the duo was known as Swimming with Sharks in the UK, probably due to the potential sexual connotations of the name hump in English. So I'm thinking maybe after this they would, because the name Swimming with Sharks rings a bell, but unless there was a movie by that name as well, wasn't there? Anyway.
But I mean, the only reason that I can think that they're being launched in the UK is because of the success of 99 Red Balloons, My Name of the year before, and it's all part of that Neue Deutsche Welle, the German New Wave.
Yeah, and propaganda.
And Falco and people like that. So, yeah, I think they were just trying to, they like Nana, so let's give them some hump.
Give it some hump. I also was quite intrigued by the fact that James Bond makes an appearance in Smash Hits, which is unusual. There's a little story about Duran Duran's new soundtrack song, View to a Kill, and some stuff about the film. And I was thinking, for a long time, James Bond themes were by much more established Duran Duran were established, but more kind of singers for your mums and dads, like Shirley Bassey, Tom Jones, Lulu, Carly Simon. Exactly. I think all the previous 4 or 5 had been very kind of middle of the road, quite adult kind of singers, and then to have Duran Duran doing the theme tune, I thought that was quite interesting, because then obviously after that it was a and then you got a bit more of a pop thing going on, and I think this is kind of the turning point really, and so it means that there's a bit of story in Bitz about View to a Kill. Lyn, I know you wanted to talk a bit about the Madonna story in here, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, well, I know 1985 was a long time ago and a different kind of cultural landscape. But as a feminist, I was quite dismayed by Madonna's treatment in this edition of Smash Hits. When you think at this point, well, as they say themselves, Madonna was I'm reading now from the article, Madonna was on a massive sellout tour of the States. She had no less than 6 singles in the US top 40, one of them in the number 1 slot. And then there was her film Desperately Seeking Susan. As Frankie says, the world was her oyster. And she really was. She was absolutely huge at this point. And for me, a massive style icon. And that picture of her there as the character out of Desperately Seeking Susan with her funky jacket and the black kind of ribbon in her hair and all the gold jewellery and the lace gloves and everything else, and a little bit kind of gothic and a bit punky and very, very New York street look. It just totally blew me away. She was an absolute star model for me. I went out and bought a drum case. In the film, she uses a drum case as a suitcase. And I did I don't think it was an actual drum case, but it was sort of like a round suitcase, just to look like Madonna out of Desperately Seeking Susan. And, she was just like massive at that point. And what do they talk about? The whole point of that article was just to list all the boyfriends that she'd had. And I just thought, Duran Duran, as we'll come to in a bit, are pretty much down the dumper. And we know poor old Adamant is sliding down, dumper into the dumper as well. But, Madonna was really on top of the world, and she gets this little piece in Bitz about how many boyfriends. I mean, there probably not even really were a boyfriend. We know she ended up getting married to Sean Penn, but Don Johnson, John F. Kennedy Jr., David Lee Roth, and just this long list. Prince. Poor woman. And I think they picked something up at the back in mutterings about Madonna and toy boys and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, it reminds us that 1985 was a very unfair world, I think, for women still. And Smash Hits was just part of that. It just reflected that. And you were more likely to get a male cover star than a female cover star. And you were more likely to have, male bands at number 1. And it's good that, the pop industry and the music industry is slowly, like a great big giant sort of juggernaut, slowly turning that round now. This I thought was a particular low point in 1985 for me. But there you go. She still looks good, doesn't she? When you compare to those pictures of Jelly Bean and David Lee Roth and everybody down the bottom.
Yeah,
she looks pretty classy,
pretty
doesn't
cool.
she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's true. I mean, she was, judging by that piece, she's being held up to very different standards than the men were. And, you can't imagine a similar kind of piece, I don't think, on any of the male pop stars, or it would have a different tone. It just seemed like quite a bit moralistic, and not a little bit tutting, and also kind of taking the mickey a bit. But yeah, and it's that word chicklet. The word chicklet comes up quite a lot, And but I don't believe for a minute really that the writers for Smash Hits were a particularly sexist bunch. I think it was just how it was. It was just, and things were changing, and you got people like French and Saunders and Ruby Wax and people like that were coming along and being strong women that weren't relying on sort of being like having film star looks or whatever. Even Madonna was quite unconventional in her appearance. And Grace Jones, one of the mentions of Grace Jones in here, I think in one of the bits about View to a Kill,
this absolutely iconic woman, and they make her comment some like snidey comment about her leggings.
I think that's in the Duran Duran
In the
piece.
Duran
Yeah,
Duran
yeah.
piece, yeah. I think everything you could say about Grace Jones, and all they can think of is crazy leg warmers, Jonesy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think Smash Hits at this point, in terms of the people who were writing for it, was still a bit of a boys' club.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it does come across in the bits from this period, and it's something that I've noticed, picked up on before when we've dealt with 1985. There's things like Girly Swat and things like that, and it makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when I read that Madonna piece, I thought, what is the point of that? I couldn't actually find anything constructive to say about it.
Yeah.
I just put some question marks. But I remember Smash Hits had a big pull-out poster of Madonna around about this time. I think that the main photo was a Desperately Seeking Susan thing, and then the other images around it. And I put that on my wall in an effort to convince myself that I fancied Madonna. So I was 11, 12 years old, and I was desperate to find a female pop star to fancy. And I didn't fancy Madonna, but I used to convince myself that I did, and I did. I've never told anyone this before, but it was up on the wall. I used to stand on the chair that I used to, because I had a cabin bed. So the chair that I used to stand on to get into bed, I used to move across to the other wall, get up and kiss the poster before I went to bed. It didn't last very long, the thing between me and Madonna. She moved on. Clearly, as this piece states.
Moved on and on and on.
I don't even get a mention. It's all about it.
Where's your picture in there, Galloway?
Yeah.
Oh, little side kissing Madonna.
So we get to, let's see, what's this? Page 10 of this issue of Hits. And we get Howard Jones sitting. Well, is he sat on some rocks or something? There's a bit of water below him. Is he on a cliff edge?
It's a pebble.
It's a pebble. Well, he is
Little Howard
small.
Jones.
Yeah, little Howard Jones. And he's staring meaningfully down into the water with his. He's got a little hat on there and some white boots. And the caption is "Life in One Day," which is the single that was, contemporaneous to this issue of Hits. And it says, "Howard Jones is not a dawdler. Give him 24 hours and he'll contrive to pack in a spot of water skiing, a game of Monopoly, a whiz-along on roller skates, an episode of Dallas, and, of course, a vegetarian nosh-up. And you never know, he'll probably even play a sellout concert or two. And then he'll chat about it all to Chris Heath." So Chris Heath catches up with Hojo in Toronto, where he's checked in under a pseudonym, Naldo Marchetta, a character from Dallas. I didn't remember that, and I'm glad that it says this in this edition of Smash Hits. And Howard says, "On every tour, I use a different name. On the last tour, it was Alphonse Conroy. Now we're all booked in as the Naldo Marchetta Orchestra." He's got a bit of a sense of humour as Howard as well.
He's a bit of a card, isn't he, Hal?
He is.
Yes.
But yeah, he's. I think that's probably the most exciting thing in the feature, perhaps. But he's talking about life on tour and converting all his bandmates to vegetarianism, apart from 4 who steadfastly refused to humour him and carry on eating the meat. And I don't know. Have you got the book there? Talking about.
Oh yeah.
Talking about Howard Jones and vegetarianism. Gavin, you've recently come into possession.
Indeed,
of a cookbook.
Rather fortuitously, this I was alerted to the existence of this book. So it's a book published by a company called Green Print. I don't know if there's something to do with the Green Party or not, but it's from 1988, so a couple of years after this edition of Smash Hits. But it's basically kind of celebrities' vegetarian cookbook. So you can, for example, if you wanted to eat Martin Shaw's scrambled tofu on toast, or Johnny Walker's guacamole, or Nerys Hughes' spinach surprise. It's like a half man, half biscuit song, this, isn't it? Joanna Lumley's amazing pudding.
Spike Milligan does some weird, like, sweet spaghetti. You mix up spaghetti with sugar or...
Spaghetti dolce, right. Spaghetti, right. Let's just have a look at Spike Milligan's a second, just going off-piste for a moment. Just see the ingredients of Spike's. So Spike's spaghetti dolce is, 8 ounces of spaghetti, cooked al dente, no salt, 5-ounce carton of double cream, 2 tablespoons of brandy and caster sugar to taste.
Crikey.
If you want to try that at home.
That's more about the brandy than anything else.
And obviously Howard Jones also makes an appearance in this with his lentil and red pepper sauce on page 42. It looks all right. I mean, compared to Spike Milligan's pasta recipe, I think this is a lot more palatable, isn't it?
Okay, is it to be served with pasta? Is that what it's intended for?
It is to be served with pasta, yeah. Easing the pasta down into the water as the ends soften. That's very gentle, isn't it? That's like easing the pasta down into the water as the ends soften.
Caressing the pasta.
No, chucking it in for Howard. You've got to ease it in.
Exactly, yeah. So, several years later, he was still veggie, and I kind of presume he still is now, really, to be honest.
I'm sure he is. Yeah.
So, fair play to him.
Yeah.
So, the Celebrity Vegetarian Cookbook, available in all good second-hand bookshops.
So I was interested in Howard being into Dallas because I was a big Dallas fan, and I was kind of thinking, was I still watching it in 1985? Of course, 1985 was the classic year. It was the season of Pam's Dream, where she thinks Bobby's died. And the following year, Bobby comes out of the shower and he's not dead at all. Sorry to spoil it for anybody that's catching up on Dallas from 1985. But I think that's kind of well known as being the year that Dallas jumped the shark, really. And it was all a dream. It was a major plot device. But yeah, we were still watching it then. And Howard was loving it. Likes a bit of Dallas.
I was amazed reading it just how popular he was in Canada, because it talks about him selling out a 13,000 capacity stadium.
Well, he's looking forward to playing an even bigger crowd.
He is.
At Live Aid, he says that it's great to be involved, he beams. If there's time, I'm going to do 3 numbers. Hide and Seek, and No One Is to Blame, solo at the piano, and a completely vocal arrangement of Life in One Day with my backing singer's Aphrodisiac. It sounds really good. We've been rehearsing it every day on tour. Sadly, he only got to perform one of those songs, and it wasn't the one that he'd been rehearsing with Aphrodisiac every day on tour, which is a shame, really, because I think that would have been quite nice, because for me, Aphrodisiac are the highlight of that particular song. But the half of the feature is about the video for Life in One Day, which is on the video playlist, if you want to go and check that out, if you don't remember it at the time. And I don't remember it from the time at all. It's quite an individual, unique video, shall we say, that wouldn't have made it to Top of the Pops because there's lots of interruptions on there. But as I mentioned, Aphrodisiac, it's nice to see them in the video. And of course, they feature a pre-Soul to Soul Karen Wheeler. But the video is kind of a very cut-up, channel-hopping sort of affair, and very reminiscent, I thought, of Max Headroom. And of course, Max Headroom had first come to our screens a couple of months before, and I was watching it thinking, I'm sure Godley and Cream have got to have had a hand in this. And what do you know? There they are, Godley and Cream. And I think also it feeds into something that Kevin Godley would go on to do, and that's the Zoo TV thing with U2 a few years later, which lots of channel hopping, interruptions and things like that. But I think the other notable feature of this video is that Howard plays a lot of the male characters that we see in the video. And I was watching it, and I'm thinking, is that Howard? Is that one Howard Jones? Oh no, that one's not Howard Jones. But he's so anonymous that he kind of, he's chameleon-like. He just blends into the background of his own video. The only thing that kind of gives him away is his chin. Yeah. But this piece does confirm that he plays most of the male characters in there. So he's in a laundry powder commercial. He's winning something from a newspaper. He's a newsreader, looking very much like Chris Morris.
He really is, isn't he? Yeah,
absolutely. Would a few years later. But yeah, he's missing his distinctive feature. The hair.
The hair, exactly. The hair was his thing, wasn't it? It was his gimmick, and without it.
And which makes Howard Jones almost like a biblical figure, I think.
But yeah, very brave to have a video that the BBC won't show in its original version, Interesting. And it caught us out, didn't it, when we put it on YouTube? We actually thought if we got the wrong thing, because Even though we knew it was going to be quite an unusual video, it does stutter so much at the beginning. And some stuff on YouTube is a bit weird like that anyway, isn't it?
I think because it starts off as a Top of the Pops clip, doesn't it? So you think you know what you're in for, and then suddenly it starts cutting up and messing around, and then it takes a while before you realise, oh no, this is fine. This is the actual thing, because even the song stops in places, doesn't it? And that really throws you. So I think for its time, it's incredibly brave and sort of forward thinking and. Compared to a lot of 80s videos, which have dated very badly, this is actually, it still seems, it's quite interesting and there's something to watch. It doesn't disappoint still. It's probably better than the song, to be honest.
And it does set him apart from, again, the kind of glamorous people like, Wham and Duran Duran or whatever. One of his selling points was that he wasn't glamorous and he was prepared to sort of do something that was a bit thoughtful and a bit more interesting, maybe. I know he wasn't exactly like breaking down the walls of the establishment, but it was just always something a little bit quirky and a bit philosophical about Howard Jones. So, just a bit of soft spot for him.
One of the things that I found quite interesting about this piece was his quote at the end where he said, "I'm only happy if people have strong feelings. I either want people to be really into what I do or the opposite." And, I think that's the kind of thing that people who worry that they're perhaps a bit bland and a bit boring, it's the kind of thing they say, I think, to try and engender some kind of strong feeling either way or another. Because I think most people really, I certainly never had much of a feeling either way for Howard Jones. It's kind of like Nick Kershaw for me. It was sort of, I didn't mind him and some of his songs were okay and I didn't hate them, but, I found it hard to really like what he did and to really buy into what he did as well, because I just found him a little bit wishy-washy and a bit polite, and those things are fine, but I wanted something a bit more memorable and a bit more kind of grist in the mill. I think Howard deep down suspects that and probably wants a bit of that, but he's just not that kind of person, and that's fine, So when did you start to when did the wheels fall off the Howard wagon for you?
I think probably by the end of 1985, the wheels fell off fairly soon. So I didn't buy another album after this album. And the first Smiths singles that I got, the first sort of Smiths vinyl that I bought was the following year, I think, like Ask and Big Mouth Strikes Again. And that was kind of when I got into the Smiths. And so by that point, I was already into The Cure and Susie and the Bunches. But I think the Smiths felt a little bit more dangerous than that, and a little
bit more subversive than Howard was.
A little bit more subversive than Howard,
You couldn't really be less subversive than Howard Jones, could you?
So this is one of the reasons why I like this smash hits, because you've got, we'll come on to the Damned in a bit, you've got The Shadow of Love by the Damned in here, and just a few hints of other types of music that are out there that I would eventually go and explore. But at this point, if I had to pick something, probably would have just about still been Howard Jones on the front cover. But, it wouldn't have been for much longer.
Okay, so we move next on to a 2-page spread on Duran Duran and what are Duran Duran up to? And it's really an article that's desperately trying to add some fresh air to the rapidly deflating balloon that is Duran Duran at this point. We've got sort of a little kind of columns on different side projects and things that are going on. So the Power Station, one of the two side groups that they've kind of split into. Robert Palmer has traumatised John Taylor because he's not available for the Power Station tour. So they've had to rope in Michael Debar. Is that how you pronounce it?
I think that's probably how you pronounce it.
Probably.
Yeah.
So John doesn't sound very happy about that. Meanwhile, Simon and Nick have been in Paris since the new year working on their secret project, which before long they will reveal as being Arcadia. And we've talked about the video for Election Day a previous podcast.
Yeah.
More about A View to a Kill, the James Bond theme, which was also mentioned in Bitz earlier on in this issue. It was recorded in 1 week after protracted negotiations. Simon Le Bon says it's about time they had someone decent to do the theme. Woo! And but yeah, they wouldn't have another single out for over a year. So up to that point, they'd been having fairly regular top 10 hits, for several years. But this is really the wheels kind of coming off, and
things aren't well in the land of
all
Duran
is not
Duran.
well in Duran camp, as we'll know as well from Live Aid the next week.
Yeah, but I don't think they're even very well in the power station camps. Obviously, Robert Palmer's bailed. I guess the record company have forced them into a tour. They've had to rope in this other guy.
Yeah.
And Andy Taylor says, the kids have bought tickets and we'll be here to play. So, they're clearly not happy about doing that either. It seems very, very forced.
Yeah, it seems like a contractual obligation.
Yeah, and also, because it says that the tour starts on June the 30th, so it was already in progress by the time this came out, already in progress by the time that the power station played at Live Aid. And it's awful, their little set they do. It's just absolutely disastrous. Michael Desbar
should have been barred.
He should have been barred, yeah. He ain't no Robert Palmer. No, that's for sure. And he always seemed a bit of a mismatch, Robert Palmer, singing over these kind of squally guitars and
Coke rock.
Yeah, Coke rock, basically, yeah. And I think Robert did the right thing by bailing.
Yeah.
I think this spread is very like a kind of visual representation of where Duran Duran is at this point, where there's a lot of blank space, a lot of like poor quality graphics, and the pictures. We like the pictures of John and Andy. We're not sure if they're standing on a step ladder or just a little clothes dryer, because on Andy it looks really big, and Johnny looks really small.
I'm not sure if it's the same thing or not. I mean, yeah. If it is, then Andy's even smaller than Howard Jones. Isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a little fella.
Tiny.
Well, John
little fella.
Taylor's quite a statuesque fella, isn't he? So
He's very handsome, John Taylor.
I think as a metaphor as well for them being dumper bound, there's the bit where Simon Le Bon's talking about his yacht. The practice he's going to have to put in on sailing it, and he's talking about an around the world race that's going to be happening. And a month later, it capsized, leaving him underwater for 20 minutes, almost dying, and had to be rescued by a helicopter. And at the end, it says Duran Duran the future, and it just ends with saying, is a bit vague. and that's it. But they still get a 2-page spread, because I guess in years past and months past, they've sold a lot of issues of Smash It. So I think, obviously, the team that put the magazine together still feel that there's enough commercial interest in having a bit about Duran Duran. But I think, I would imagine this was probably one of the last kind of double-page features they would have had, I think. What did you think of View to a Kill, Lyn? Were you much of a Duran fan?
No, I wasn't really much of a Duran fan at the time. I did have a copy of Seven and the Ragged Tiger, but that was only because, for some reason, I'd gone out and bought a Genesis album when I was about 12, and it just, I don't know why I bought it. It was a moment of madness, and it had just sat there in my record collection.
we've all done it.
We've all done it. And my English, I don't even know how this happened. My music teacher, Mr. Burrell, I got talking to him about it. And apparently in a moment of madness, he'd gone out and bought Seven and the Ragged Tiger. And he didn't know why that...
swap shop.
So in the time-honoured 1980s fashion, I bought my Genesis album in school. He bought his Duran Duran album. And we swapped and we were both very happy.
Fantastic.
So that was the only Duran Duran album I owned at the time. But then...
Sorry, it just reminded me of something that happened to me at primary school. Very similar story. One assembly, I must have been about 10. I think I was in the final year of primary school. And one of the teachers, he was quite an old fella, and he did an assembly. And at the end, he said... By the way, he loved trains and trams, this guy, who was called Mr. Brown. And he said, by the way, he said, and he held up this picture of an album, and it was Breakfast in America by Supertramp. And he said, someone's bought me this album, and I think they thought it was Supertramp, but it's Supertramp. And would anyone like to swap it? It must have been a thing in the 70s and 80s, and teachers just going round with multicolour swap shots. They must have seen it on telly and thought, and they've got these albums.
Yeah.
But I think it was a harder sell. I don't think anyone wanted it. I mean, how many kids in 1980 are going to want a Supertramp album? I mean, Duran Duran, maybe, but... Have you got any stories like that?
I've got a swap story, but it doesn't involve a teacher. No, it's just I swapped a Police 7-inch single for a toffee apple.
I think you got a good deal. I think
I did, definitely.
Which single was it?
It was Can't Stand Losing You on blue vinyl, ex-jukebox.
Oh, well, maybe not then. I think that's 2 toffee apples, that'd be worth it. In a fair bargain.
Shortchanged. Turn the page, we get a couple more lyrics. The Style Council, Come to Milton Keynes, and Elton John with Millie Jackson, Acts of War. Lyn, I believe this is something that you wanted to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, well, initially when I started looking through this copy of Smash Hits, I totally flicked past this page and didn't even really give it another glance. I'm not a fan of Paul Weller particularly, not a fan of Elton John particularly, couldn't remember either of the songs, so I just kept missing it out and looking at other things. And then eventually I went back and actually listened to it and watched the videos, and I think they've been the revelation of the whole edition of Smash Hits for me. So Come to Milton Keynes, I don't know what I was expecting. I've never heard it. I'd never heard this song before. I do like a little bit of the Style Council. I do like, Ever-Changing Moods and stuff like that. I like the kind of popular ones. I don't have a lot of time for Paul Weller, I'm afraid, really. But I put the video of this on and it's brilliant. They come out on stage at the beginning, like dressed like music hall, like Flanagan and Allen or something, aren't they? In like kind of fur coats, and they're singing to an audience. And then the image is very, very dark. This is like a real sort of socialist, angry song about the death of the kind of dream of the new town. So the new town, when it was originally conceived, was quite a socialist, like left-wing idea that you'd build a really good place for working class people, affordable housing, all that kind of stuff. And then by the 80s, you're getting Milton Keynes. And I've never been to Milton Keynes, I'm not going to slag it off, but it was kind of the opposite of that aspiration. It was then all about money and just being for rich people, really. Commuter belt, yeah. It was a Thatcher city.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Weller was pretty much every song he was doing around this time on Our Favourite Shop. It's really kind of banging on Thatcher's door and Public Enemy is number 10 in Walls Come Tumbling Down.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be, and Walls Come Tumbling Down is like one of the best protest songs ever. The lyrics on that one are amazing. And I think this one, it's because the music's quite whimsical, and then you get that music hall beginning on the video as well, and they don't really sit together well, or that the music is disguising actually how cutting the lyrics are. He's not pulling any punches on this one at all.
The lyrics are horrific,
and even gets in a little Smith's quote as well.
Oh yeah, well, I was looking for a job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love the melody. It's just lovely, sort of lilting melody that absolutely sticks in your mind. It's like it's been a real earworm for me for the last few weeks. And these very, very angry lyrics. And Paul Weller from the South as well, and from not a million miles where I grew up, and to be very, very left wing when you've grown up in the home counties is actually quite difficult in lots of ways, because, growing up in Hertfordshire, being conservative with a small or a big C is absolutely like, it's part of the culture. It's part of who you are. The idea of voting Labour for me in the 1980s was almost like it was vulgar. It was almost like, it wasn't a political thing. It was almost like, oh, well, you don't do that. And it wasn't until I came to Sheffield, the Socialist Republic of South Yorkshire, that I actually started to think that voting Labour might be something that ordinary people do for good reason. My mum stopped, policing what I did when I went to the voting booth. So, yeah, I think this has kind of given me a little bit of a reevaluation of Paul Weller, this song. I really love it, and it's been a real discovery for me.
Yeah.
So,
I think that the video as well I think it stands up quite well.
Yeah.
And is clearly a massive influence on Britpop. When you think about things like the Country House video by Blur, and also that kind of juxtapositions of like the glamour that it's showing and the showbiz that it's showing in that video against like capitalism and the grotesqueness, with the little girl, chasing the dragon for one thing, taking a bite of the burger and all the ketchup, and the Statue of Liberty, slashing her wrists and all that kind of stuff. So there's that real kind of cynical grotesqueness that's part of the video, and I think became a bit of a trope throughout the 80s. Captain Sensible did a song later that year called Come On Down, which is like a game show setting. But it's kind of like a cynical take on that, and I think it feeds so much into what we had 10 years later with Britpop.
Yeah, the video's great. I mean, there's a lot of humour in it as well, It's a very dark song, but there's a lot of humour in it, and there's a lot of humour in the video, and I love the way they kind of dance. They're very physical, and they're very natural in the way that they perform. It's great, really excellent. I'd say it's probably one of the best tracks, one of the best songs featured in this edition of Smash Hits. And to the left of the page, conversely on the right, is Act of War. And I think it's hilarious that it can't have been a coincidence they put this together. Do you think somebody at Smash Hits had an eyebrow raised? Because Act of War by Elton John and Millie Jackson is an absolute abomination. It starts at about 4,000 miles an hour and it doesn't actually slow down at any point.
It's just one pace all the way through, isn't it?
Bang, 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 all the way through. And Elton's wearing that awful kind of where he wears these like military hats and...
the three-quarter length coat as well, which makes him look even shorter than he is.
That really bad mullety hair. It makes his hair look worse than it actually is. Everything about it is so awful.
Yeah, I mean, the song itself, I remember the song from the time, but I haven't heard it for a long time. When it came on, when I was listening to the playlist, I'm like, God, it really sounds like a reject from the Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack.
Yes, it does. It really does.
It's kind of non more 80s, and I think 1985 is the year where particularly our elder statesmen of rock and pop were struggling. The technology was kind of overtaking them, and they were submitting to it, and weren't necessarily coming out with their best work. I'm no fan of Elton anyway, but I'll save my opinions for another platform probably. But it's just no match at all for Millie Jackson, and I think she's almost portrayed as like a Tina Turner type figure in this one, and she's very much her own woman. And very much not about this type of song. If you know what Millie Jackson's all about, well, it wouldn't even get in Smash Hits because it's rather X-rated stuff,
risque,
shall we say? And isn't one of her album covers where she sat on the toilet or something like that? Yeah. So I think they probably couldn't get Tina, and so they got someone else. And Millie Jackson owns it. But she probably didn't want to. Yeah.
I think the less said about it, the better, to be honest. Yeah. The best of times, the worst of times.
Yeah.
Right there on page 18.
Moving on a few pages, and we get to some more lyrics. We've got Hip Sway, The Broken Years, and getting a lot more of the page, The Damned with a lovely lamppost, almost coming out of David Fagan's head. And it's the lyrics for The Shadow of Love. Lyn, this was you were mentioning earlier on that you'd started getting into The Damned. Was this kind of the first time you'd come across them, really, or were you aware of them before?
Grimly Fiendish, I think, was the first single off the album Phantasmagoria, which was quite distinctive sounding. It had the little kind of harpsichord opening and slightly quirky lyrics. So and then I think I bought the album and probably knew this single at this point, The Shadow of Love, and then probably did a bit of what I've did with other bands and just went and checked out their back catalogue, because obviously the Damned had been on a bit of a journey, really, because at this point they were quite, romantic goths, but obviously in the past they'd been leading punks of their day.
I suppose by this time they'd been going almost 10 years, really, hadn't they? So quite elder statesmen of rock.
I think it really suited Dave Vanian. I think he just was waiting for the day that he could grow his hair long and put his frilly shirt on, really. I think he just was treading water through the punk years. But I think the rest of them were just very uncomfortable with the whole look. And I couldn't wait to get that bloody frilly shirts off. But yeah, I loved this. I loved this album. I loved Shadow of Love. I like the kind of whole epic feeling to it, and the gothic lyrics, and the video is quite nice, isn't it? It's quite kind of gothic and shadowy, and so yeah, I think at this point in 1985, Hip Sway, just more blah, middle of the road, boring man stuff. But the Shadow of Love by the Damned's great, and actually maybe the first time I saw the Damned was on the Young Ones, obviously doing, you know, I Made Love with a Video Nasty a couple of years before, and I think for a lot of people like me and my friends, that would have been the first time we'd really seen the Damned, because we were too young for all the neat and all that stuff. But Dave Vanian on the Young Ones with Alexis Sales, Vampire and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That was a great
Classic
introduction.
episode, yeah.
Classic episode, nasty.
We skip on a few more pages and we get to Tom Hibbert, the mighty Tom Hibbert, who we all love on Giddy Carousel of Pop, reviewing the singles, and he's got a really good selection of stuff to look at. His single of the fortnight, well, he's got two. There's an unlikely pairing, really. We've got the Ramones, Bonzo Goes to Bitburg, and Prefab Sprout, Farron Young. The Ramones, he says that Joey's voice sounds more like a nasty accident in a hamburger factory than ever, which is a good thing in Tom Hibbert's book. And Prefab Sprout, he confesses that he used to think they were just too clever by half and didn't like them, but he's been forced to eat his words. He says that the single is witty, charming and quite excellent, but I still say the group has a stupid name. And a little bit further down the page, he's reviewing the Pet Shop Boys' Opportunities Let's Make Lots of Money, which is obviously sung by his ex-colleague and his chum Neil Tennant. It says the vocalist person can actually sing. Well, he doesn't mention who the vocalist person is, but he seems to like it. He gives some short shrift to Freddie Mercury. He says, arguably the worst record ever made. And having watched the video, I would agree, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
bloody awful.
Made in Heaven is the
Made
song.
in Heaven, yes.
It wasn't.
It really wasn't. It was made in hell and should remain in hell for all eternity. And he doesn't like Morris's, he calls them undisciplined vocal swayings that are becoming just a wee bit tiresome. That's the Smiths. That joke isn't funny anymore. And Belouise Sum, who's had a bit of a kick in on this podcast before, I think in the Live Aid.
Live Aid Part 2.
Part 2, yes. Poor Belouise, he didn't go down very well with our guest Tim Robinson, and doesn't go down very well with Tom Hibbert either, who says it's his single Some People, and it's hard. Belouise Some People, he should have chosen a different title for his song, I think, and he just basically says not much good really.
No.
So Lyn, any reviews there that catch your eye?
Well, I love Bonzo Goes to Bitburg by the Ramones, so I like the way Tom Hibbert, his description of a song that sounds like it was recorded by road drills in a tub of yoghurt. I thought it was great. I don't quite know what it means. And Joey Ramone's voice like a nasty accident in a hamburger factory. But yeah, I think it somehow manages. How do you capture the Ramones in words? Very, very hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, OMD Secret has plagued us over the last few weeks because, we both like a bit of OMD, and I've always liked, Joan of Arc and things like that. I was thinking, Secret, that's nice. And then you watch the video and it absolutely it's just a car crash, isn't it? It's so terrible that actually I think I now hate OMD. I think the video did everything it wasn't supposed to do. I think it made me hate them more than anything else.
What is it you didn't like about the video?
The video is like they're trying to tell the story of the song in a very literal way. So is it Andy McCluskey has a secret that he's hiding from?
Well, I think they've both got secrets.
They've both got secrets from each other.
Yeah.
That they're both basically stepping out with the same girl at Cleethorpes, I think
They're just both looking maungy on a beach, aren't they, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't do the song any good whatsoever. Just a very poor 1980s video, really, very cheap. And the Al Corley Square Rooms, I thought, was quite a lot of fun. I think you can't beat a bit of like 80s drama drumming.
He really goes for it. Well, I've seen the video of that song and a live clip, and he does the same. Because when you watch the video, he's got like some big tom-tom drums at the end of his bed, and you're like, why the heck has he got them? And then it gets to the chorus, and he does that thing with the spare rooms and the square rooms, spare rooms. He's in his spare room doing the video, and he does that thing where he's like boom, boom with the drum.
Yeah, that's the unique selling point, isn't it? The big drums that he drums on. Yeah, the song is completely pointless, but
very 80s. Well, what do you expect from an ex-cast member of Dynasty? You know?
Yeah,
exactly.
That's great stuff. Yeah, and Change by Sparks. Love Sparks. Very strange song, this. Strange choice for a single. Quite low-key, and obviously when you see Sparks, as terrifying as ever. But it's a bit of a grower.
I thought that song was amazing. I've never heard. I don't know that song.
Yeah.
Sparks are quite. I find them quite overwhelming, in a way. I like them, but there's so much of them. I just don't know how to tackle it. And so I like what Sparks I know, and when I hear Sparks that's new to me, I also like that. So this came on. I was listening to this playlist in the car for the first time, so I didn't really know who was singing what songs, and it started, and I thought, is this The Art of Noise? Who is this? Oh, it sounds a bit like Simply the Best by Tina Turner. What's going on here? And then, and Russell's kind of talking, which so it does sound a bit like it could be like a Art of Noise thing. But when he starts singing, it's Sparks.
Yeah.
And then, just what an incredible song. It's another one that I've been listening to loads. And it's almost like it's the whole of the 80s is like up to that point, and what would happen after that point is travelling through that song. With Art of Noise, a little bit of Frankie Goes to Hollywood in there. There's a Phil Collins drum fill in there at one point. But it also sounds like what was coming out, what was getting into the charts a few years later. Like I say, Simply the Best by Tina Turner, that pulse that's going on in there. Obviously, this is a much better song. So it's like it's a conduit for the whole of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It's just running through this song. I just think it's phenomenal. Really, really good.
Sparks are absolutely amazing. I mean, we've been buying their albums sort of as they come out every couple of years for the last few years, and they are just, the lyrics are brilliant. It's like they've just got this endless creativity, and yet they always seem to stay a bit under the radar and a bit subversive, but astonishing stuff.
What else caught your eye in this, Si?
Well, I think the other song that kind of confused me out of all these when listening through to them was the Bucks Fizz one.
I had exactly the same.
You and Your Heart So Blue. Now, elsewhere in the magazine, there's Bruce Springsteen, there's Nils Lofgren, and I'm thinking, is this the Nils Lofgren track? It's got that kind of Bruce Springsteen, Don Henley, Boys of Summer kind of vibe going on with that one. And it wasn't until I was going through the video playlist and it came on, I thought, there's that song. Looking up, expecting to see Nils Lofgren, jumping up and down on his little trampoline. And Bucks Fizz. Who knew? I mean, it sounds like it's something that should have been on the Top Gun soundtrack.
Yeah. It's very, very unlike anything else by them I've heard.
Yeah.
Really out of character, isn't it?
Well, it's just one of the guys singing, isn't it? In a raspy kind of Bryan Adams style voice. As for records that I bought that featured that are in this issue of Smash Hits, the Billy Joel single, bought it on 12-inch single from the market in Sheffield. It was in the bargain bin. I had a bit of a thing for Billy Joel in 1985.
Again, talking about videos, we were talking about Secret by OMD earlier on, and the Billy Joel videos, it's pretty bad, isn't it?
Well, the song, it says, you're only human, you're supposed to make mistakes, and I did buying that record.
Yeah. One of them is buying this on 12-inch from Sheffield Market.
Yeah. Forgiveness right there in the grooves.
It's not a good song and it's not a good video. We should mention, while we're here, Russ Abbott's All Night Holiday and the cover of the single.
Well, yeah, because Tom Hibbert makes a little bit of a mention of the sleeve, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. He says, the cover of the package holiday classic shows Russ drinking stout, while such giants of pop as G. Michael, S. Switchblade, E. John, and even Mike Reed cavort on the beach around him. They should be so lucky, why they're not fit to kiss the turf upon which the cerebral god of music and merriment daintily treads. And we were trying to work out who some of the people were. I mean,
Yeah,
take a look.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go to Discogs and have a look at this sleeve, and the rear sleeve is just as interesting as the front. So it's an illustration with Russ Abott and one of his, what was it, the Jimmy character that he used to do, the Scottish one. George Michael having a bit of a pose with some short shorts on and holding ghetto blaster type thing. Elton John peering in. DJ Mike Reid, not run around Mike Reid. I don't know if it is Strawberry Switchblade, but
I think it is. They've got the polka dot ribbons. I think it must be, yeah.
But then there's a couple of people on that front that don't really know who they are. And the first one of those is the chap in between the Straubs, if you can call them that, with a hat and a big long beard.
I think it's Fidel Castro in his swimming trunks, but I know it sounds incongruous, but the whole thing's incongruous.
Yeah.
I can't think who else it would be with a big beard like that.
Yeah, I thought it might have been one of ZZ Top, but yeah, the colouring's not quite right.
No.
The beard,
No,
is it?
because he's got a dark beard, and ZZ Top were blonde, weren't they? The ones with beards.
Yeah.
And we've also got like the buried head of someone who looks a bit like Kenny Everett, but I'm not sure. It's either John the Baptist or Kenny Everett, or possibly someone else. I don't know. It's like someone with a beard.
Sinister, and it really does look like one
It's
of those
horrible.
like 16th century kind of Renaissance random figures. It's not even properly coming out of the sand, is it? It's kind of blending into the sand, into Russ Abbott's knees.
Yeah. So it's almost like a ghost head that's passing through. The rest of his body is trucking down some stairs that used to be on the beach or something, but all you ever see above beach level is his head.
So the whole thing is very troubling in every way. And on the back cover, there's some odd stuff going on the back as well. We've got a very recognisable Boy George, but then the other people, we're not quite sure. There's someone who looks like he might be a member of Status Quo behind Boy George, but
I'm pretty sure that's Rick Parfitt.
Rick Parfitt. It's got the right hair.
the face is all wrong. But then,
Yeah, but the denim's right, and his thumbs in the and the
because
belt
you think
loops.
how badly drawn Boy George is, really.
it's not badly drawn boy. Badly drawn Boy George.
Because basically, he's like a kind of very slim girl, whereas we know Boy George was a bit of a chunky Irish fellow, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't have a little slender waist like that.
And then the most frightening thing is the helicopter. The character in the helicopter. And if you can zoom in on the pilot of the helicopter, it's really
you've
quite
got
ghostly.
an absolute, horrific figure of death in the helicopter.
It's like
screaming.
It's like a horrible public information film from the 70s. It's about to be some horrible crash on the beach.
But who's the guy with the T-shirt that says Butch on it, wearing a dicky bow and carrying what looks like Tracy Ullman?
Tony Blackburn.
I would have thought Tony Black. Again, it doesn't look that much like him, but I think it looks as much like him as the Rick Parfitt figure does.
I mean, it looks a bit too chunky for Tony Blackburn. But it looks to me like it could be somebody off Bullseye or Pot Black or something. I just can't work it out. I mean, it's, the whole thing. When you take it as a front and back, it's just quite bewildering. And
It is amazing. It really is.
Yeah, and another thing that I've kind of become obsessed with that's in this edition of Smash Hits.
It looks like the man at the back who's got black swimming trunks and is holding hands with the woman in the yellow swimming costume. It sort of looks like he's carrying a knife in his mouth.
He is
it?
carrying.
Is he?
Is it David Bowie? Is it a Bowie knife?
Clever. Either that or it's. I thought it was Steve Norman out of Spandau Ballet, but yeah. It could be a Bowie knife, yeah.
It could be a Bowie knife. Because I did wonder underneath, like they have in very prominent letters a copyright message, and whether they were worried about copyrighting the images of all these celebrities, so they've slightly messed them up, so they don't quite look like who they are,
Well, the sleeve is by Mike Ryan. If anyone out there knows Mike Ryan and could put us in touch with him so we can get a full breakdown of the celebrities, that'd be great.
Definitely a bit of a prototype Cold War Steve. It's all his nightmarish glory.
Just missing Phil Mitchell.
Yeah.
Cilla Black. Moving on, one of the stalwarts of Smash Hits is the Get Smart column. Unfortunately, this issue, the questions aren't the best. Sometimes we get some really interesting ones. However, there is one which stands head and shoulders above all the others in terms of specific questions. It's the strangest thing I've ever seen in a Get Smart, even more so than I think I saw Neil Tennant in a branch of a stationers in London a few weeks ago. This one is just great. This really made me smile. So this is from a Boy George fan in Rennell, does that say? Yeah, Rennell. I don't even know where Rennell is. No. So this is his question, or her question. On Saturday, March the 9th, my uncle, my brother and myself were all fishing at Edgbaston Reservoir. As we were packing away our fishing gear at around 3:30 p.m, I saw a bloke go running past. He looked just like the lead singer with the Grumbleweeds. You know, the one with blonde hair and beard. Can you please find out if it was him? I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? And you know, fair play to Linda Duff. She gets the information. It was indeed blonde and bearded Maurice Lee of the Mighty Grumbleweeds. He's only recently taken to developing his muscles and turning a body that used to be very weedy looking into a regular dynamo or something like that. Apart from jogging, he regularly takes part in marathons and does weightlifting and keep fit. Granada TV's Grumbleweeds radio show returns in the autumn, but if you can't bear to wait, the Weeds are appearing at Torquay's Festival Theatre until the end of September. I just think it's great that a magazine existed that could cover this entire gamut of, you know, from stuff about Madonna's love life to, you know, a Cocteau Twins compilation album coming out in America to Max Headroom to, I think I saw Maurice Lee of the Grumbleweeds jogging around a reservoir in Edgbaston. Can you find out if it's true? Yes, it was true. I just think it's brilliant. It's the most specific thing ever, isn't it?
And then we get to page 35, above an advert for Hip Sway's The Broken Years, the first single by Hip Sway. It's RSVP, and my goodness, what a lively bunch of RSVPers we've got going on here. I mean, normally, you know, find one or two people that, you know, I may have written to or have written interesting or entertaining letters. Crikey! I mean, take your pick. I mean, Lyn, do you want to go first and pick out a couple of people whose letters caught your attention or who you would have written to?
Yeah, I would have written to two crazy plopettes, aged 14. They wanted to hear from other plops and plopettes. We're heavily into the power station and Scritty. And you had to write to Plip and Plop in Munthorpe in Cumbria. I'm just strangely drawn to them, and I was a big fan of Scritty Plitti.
And the plops and the plopettes?
Yeah, why not? I think that sounds all right. I think that sounds like a good offer to me. I think the Blow Monkeys and Lloyd Cole devotees desperately required just were trying far too hard. All stylish individuals. Dr. Robert lookalike Trey Welcome. You're trying a bit too hard there. Yeah, so that's what I'm going for. Plips and Plops, or whatever they call themselves. I like the sound of them.
I wanted to draw attention to a very, very odd one that really caught my eye when I was looking through. The third one down in the first column. It says, blimey, at nearly 30... 30? That's me saying that, that's not in the thing, but yeah. It says, at nearly 30, I must be the oldest regular reader of Smash Hits. If any girls, oh God, this is all wrong, fancy writing to a music-crazy, sports-loving dinosaur, contact Muskie. Muskie of Lincoln.
Well,
Lincoln, but it must be Lincoln.
It must be Lincoln, surely, yeah. So, I mean, well, we don't need to delve much further into that one, I think, but that's not right, is it? 30?
Just
no.
a little bit creepy there.
Very
a little,
creepy.
do you think? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the opening letter gets things off to a fine start. Hello out there. I'm no George Michael, but then again, who'd want to be? I'm 15 and into Howard Jones, Madonna, Dee Dee, and some Prince. My nickname's Cheese, so if you want to know why, pick up a pen and write to Mature Cheddar. And I would, of course, written to the Bowie fan, Michaela, in where's that, Buntingford. She likes Bowie, Toyah, Kim Wilde, Depeche Mode, early Duran, and early Spandau Ballet. I like collecting everything or almost everything on Bowie. Well, that's what I was
Yeah,
into
that's
as
great.
well.
Perfect for you, Si.
Buntingford wasn't far from where I grew up, so I wouldn't have written to her because it would have been like that awkward distance that if we'd got into being pen pals, we'd like, have I got to get my mum to give me a lift over to see you?
Yeah.
I don't want to
Things would
go.
have got confusing. and
Yeah,
messy.
it would have been messy.
Keep your distance, particularly if you're writing to Muskie. Definitely want to keep your distance with
Well,
Muskie.
where's he in Lonken? It doesn't even exist.
It's safer there.
Yeah. Leave him in Lonken.
Well, Matthew's aged 11 in Swindon says, I like Status Quo and Iron Maiden, and I hate Duran Duran. Also interested in sports. If you like heavy metal, write to etc. etc. So, yeah, a little bit of heavy metal creeping in there.
I was intrigued with the sort of penultimate one in the second column from Claire from Buckingham. She says, I'm 15 and my uncle's in and then in quote marks, up and coming new group. That was quite intriguing to me. I like most music, but especially Simple Minds and Depeche Mode. Boys aged 15 plus write to me. So, I would have wanted to know, who's this up and coming band that her uncle was into, and did they ever get anywhere?
And Roger in Plumstead, I think he's writing to the wrong magazine, really. I'm a 17-year-old male, high-energy lover who's especially into Dead or Alive, Sylvester and Divine. I also love going to London clubs.
Yeah.
So, it's a bit advanced in it for your average Smash Hits reader, that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He's not going to have much time to write, is he?
He's
He's
not.
out clubbing.
Yeah.
He just wrote that when he was coming down one Sunday morning.
Yeah.
At a mad moment.
So, yeah, that's a great... I think something was definitely in the water that fortnight, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
We've only picked out 5 or 6, but we could have gone through the whole... We could have just done a podcast just on one of those, because they're absolutely brilliant. That's my favourite RSVP ever, that.
So move on to page 40. The world according to Max. He's suave. He's elusive. He's TV's most closely guarded secret. He's Max Headroom, and he reveals his life philosophy and his legs over lunch with Maureen Rice.
I love Max Headroom, and it's one of the reasons why I picked this Smash Hits, because of the Max Headroom article. When the Max Headroom film was on Channel 4 in the 1980s, I guess it was earlier on in 1985, it caught my eye and I recorded it, and it was just something I used to watch over and over again on video. It's about an hour long. We watched it again a couple of weeks ago and on YouTube, 20 minutes into the future, and it's absolutely excellent. It really stands up, really good. It's like the Max Headroom creation film of how he becomes Max Headroom. And it works really well, and it's funny and it's fresh, and the character of Max Headroom's really good. He's this like a newspaper reporter, Edison Carter, that gets kind of digitised in a very early sort of rough around the edges way. And it's witty, and it went on to this really good spin-off of the video shows and the Max Headroom shows I used to watch, and it was a way of finding out about some really good music. I found out about bands like the Pale Fountains and stuff like that. So a lot of my contemporaries go, oh, Max Headroom, what was that? That was stupid. But actually, I had a big part in my life, and it's lovely to revisit it. But having said that, this article is just very odd. They clearly knew that Max Headroom was quite popular at the time. It was on telly. It was kind of the in thing. You can't interview like a scripted fictional character. So I don't know how they put this together. It's kind of got the Max Headroom humour, because there was a lot. It was kind of dad humour, like duff jokes and puns and things like that. But the concept just goes on for far too long.
It does a bit.
Absolutely outstays its welcome. It's a bit of a shame, really. I think I would have liked an interview just with like the actor that played Max Headroom, or the writer or something like that.
Yeah, because I can't work out who are they talking to, the writers, or are they talking to Matt Frewer?
Well, it can't really be Matt Frewer, I suppose. I don't know.
Well, apparently a lot of it was improvised by Matt Frewer, so they kind of have the starting point, and then he'd take it from there.
He doesn't really. He doesn't have a. There's no like reference to Matt Frewer in here, is there?
No.
So, yeah, I thought it was maybe a little bit cynical, really, to me. It just came across as a kind of, well, we know we need to include Max Headroom because we know it's popular at the moment.
Yeah, I think the humour just falls quite flat in this, doesn't it? A bit like when we covered Mr. Bean in a previous one. It's the same sort of thing, isn't it? Sort of a fictional character that's trying to be funny, and when you take them out of their normal environment, of TV and the more kind of physical, like Mr. Bean's very physical and Max Headroom is as well, and you need that voice. And when you just have it flat on the page, the humour doesn't come across, and you just think, what's the point of this? I mean, that's all I've got in my notes is, I do not understand the point of this at all. Yeah. I've got very little more to add, other than, as Lyn was saying, the original film, the 20 Minutes into the Future, is great if you've not seen it, because I never really understood what Max Headroom was about at the time. I didn't see that film then.
I know. So I remember watching that at the time, and all the
quite late on Channel 4 or something. Blipverts, yeah.
So I didn't really ever understand it. So I never knew who this odd character. I mean, he'd pop up on things, but I was like, what is this? Who is it? Why is he famous? What's going on? But seeing that made a lot of sense, and it was brilliant. It was like a sort of a Terry Gilliam kind of dystopian, really odd film, but it's sort of dated, but in a good way. It still looked great, and
it's a good story about kind of independent creativity versus like the kind of corporate greed of the world, isn't he? Max is a bit of a rebel character in the end, isn't he? He's a good character.
Yeah, I thought that was great, but this article. No, I think it's a bit of a misstep.
Yeah, he does make mention of an interview with Sting in this piece, and I've added that to the YouTube playlist. But I think the best thing about this piece being in Smash Hits is that I've gone back and watched some Max Headroom, and I haven't watched any Max Headroom for ages.
Rapidly approaching the end of the magazine, but just before the lovely picture of Green from Scritti Politti on the back page, we get, as Si mentioned earlier on, the first appearance, really, the first feature with Simply Red. Mick Hucknall is met by Tom Hibbert, and it's kind of unusual, really, I think, in that he seems absolutely fully formed already, doesn't he, Mick Hucknall? And he's ready for stardom, and he's like, often in the first interviews with pop stars, you can see them kind of feeling their way a little bit and, not quite sure of their persona, but it feels like Mick has been born for this moment, and, he's got a lot of opinions and talks a lot about the future and what's going to be happening in the future, that kind of thing. So I thought this was quite an interesting, despite it being a very short article, it's very interesting.
I'll just say, I don't know what you're talking about, because I couldn't read any of this in my magazine.
Oh, did you struggle?
I struggled. I don't know if it's printed wrong or whether I went over the text with a yellow felt tip or something like that. I just can't read it.
It is quite hard to read.
Is it yellow in there?
No, it's not that bad.
No, that's better than mine. Mine's badly printed, so I haven't read this article.
To read it? Okay,
so, yeah.
They've only had one single out already, but he's got quite a spiky persona. And as I said, it's quite an entertaining interview, and he's already behaving like he's quite famous. I certainly think Morrissey's been a bit of an influence on him, just in some of the language he uses. There's a bit where Tom Hibbert asks him about TV, and you could read this in Morrissey's voice, and it just sounds exactly. Oh, sorry, the cats are fighting.
Girls, be nice.
Just like Morrissey and Mick Hucknall.
Exactly. Stephen Patrick, leave it. Mick, down. There's a bit where Tom Hibbert asks him about TV, and his answer is very kind of Morrissey-esque, really. He says, I think most television is stupid and sick. I can't get people's sense of humour when they say they like Dallas and Dynasty. I just think they're being silly because those programmes are obviously distasteful. I despise American things like that. I don't know how I'll cope when we go over there. Definitely influences of Morrissey in his answer there.
Yeah, I hate canned food, and I've never been to one of those McDonald's.
One of those McDonald's. And he's also talking about, it says already, he's talking in terms of world domination and what to put on the group's 8th album. Mick Hucknall also says, I know that in a few years journalists will turn on me and make me a scapegoat to slag off like they've done with Boy George. I don't think Boy George deserves to be victimised, but then he does deserve to be criticised for making dreadful music. Ooh. There we go. Mick in early days, but already in full flight. And then there's the lyrics to Monster Dimension. Yeah, so that's Simply Red, and then we just have mutterings, an advert for some batteries, Ever Ready Gold Seal, and then lovely Green wearing a very fetching tie. And his hair's all nice.
Oh,
and
lovely,
handsome,
like a sort of school tie, isn't it?
Handsome fella, his hair green.
Well, he was a model, wasn't he?
He was a model, yeah, and he looks great in that. I'm sure that picture would have graced many a bedroom wall. And that brings us to the end of Smash Hits from July 1985.
So what's it like going back then? We know that you've kind of re-warmed to Howard Jones. You've reheated your...
Well, a little bit. Not overly much, no.
Still a bit tepid.
Yeah, I think it's still a bit tepid. I think the Style Council, Adamant, actually, I know we haven't really talked about it. It was an advert for Vive la Rock. So there's things in here that have stood the test of time for me more than I might have thought of. You know, if someone had said to me, what did you think about 1985? I wouldn't have said, the Ramones or Propaganda or Adamant, but actually looking through here, they are the tracks that I like now, that stick with me now. So there's a lot of really classic pop in here and a lot of very frivolous stuff as well. So I've enjoyed my ride on the Giddy Carousel very much. I might get off before I start to feel a bit sick.
It's always best.
Gav, what's your thoughts on this one, going back and looking? I mean, as we've said, it's a period of time that we've looked at, and I think we've probably done more editions of Smash Hits from 1985 than we have any other year. Don't quote me on that, but I think this may be the fourth time we've been back to 1985, and I know that it's my pop happy place, and I enjoy the playlist tremendously. Whether or not the music's any good or not is irrelevant. I just like it, even if it's bad. But what do you think?
Yeah, I still enjoy it. I mean, I'm a couple of years older, so my absolute kind of golden period, I guess, is probably more like 83, 84 than 85. But there's still a lot of great stuff in this. And there's still, I know we've said it before, but I think when Smash Hits had that real breadth of covering all sorts of stuff and lots of different things reviewed and lots of different song lyrics and things mentioned in Bitz and even the Grumbleweeds and Get Smart, and I just love that very kind of Catholic taste that the magazine had. And obviously, Howard Jones and Duran Duran and Green and Pete Burns are going to sell more copies, but they'll put other stuff in as well. And there's something for everyone in it. And, the fact that the Ramones and Prefab Sprout got joint single of the week and stuff, it's great. And it's just so funny, all the stuff about Rock's Lost Highway and Bitz. I'd totally forgotten about reading it again. I was like, oh yeah, that was like a phrase that I used to, it kind of really resonated with me because they used it so much in Smash Hits, and it really made me smile. And the headlines like Humpe Humpe, stick it up your trumpet. So yeah, just like you said, Si, really a happy place and very different times, but great and really nice to revisit and listen to the music. And there's a lot of fun with the videos in this era as well. Even the bad ones are so bad that they're kind of funny and enjoyable and entertaining anyway. So thank you very much, Lyn, for joining us. It's been lovely having you on board.
Thank you, and thanks to you for listening. Don't forget to check out our website, giddypoppod.home.blog, where you'll find the links to the issue of Smash Hits that we've been looking at, along with those Spotify and YouTube playlists, so you can enjoy your ride on the carousel to its fullest. And of course, you can check out our previous episodes, playlists and scans, our back issues, if you will, while you're there.
And if you want to support us by buying us a coffee, we would be forever in your debt. Coffee.com/GiddyPopPod is where you can go to do that. That's ko-fi.com/GiddyPopPod. And come and say hello to us at GiddyPopPod on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And if you're really nice and polite, we'll say hello back.
We will indeed. So thanks again. So thanks once again for listening. And we'll see you next time on the Giddy Carousel of Pop. Bye!